So I'm Stacy McCutcheon. I'm the Director of Communications at Fogarty Innovation. And it's my pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Allan Will. Allan was actually our first keynote speaker in our very first speed mentoring event back in June of 2020. So we've come a long way since then, and I'm really excited to welcome him back. Allan has been in the health technology industry for nearly 40 years. For most of those, he has served as president, CEO, founder, director, or chairman at renowned medtech companies and venture capital firms, including DVI, Onurex, eValve, Ardian, Concentric Medical, The Foundry, Split Rock Partners, Fractal Labs, Setpoint Medical, and EBR Systems. He's also a director of Fogarty Innovation. But despite this long list, when you talk to Allan, he will say that the title that makes him most proud is recipient of the ASPIA Deloitte Excellence in Mentoring Award, which he earned for his work mentoring women executives. One of those mentees, Angela McFarland, put it like this: Allan consistently prioritizes time spent developing leadership potential. He has a great ability to identify the skills of an individual, and this, combined with his understanding of what's required of early stage leaders, makes him truly gifted at helping first-time executives achieve their full potential. When I asked Allan about his commitment to mentoring, he said that he has always believed in coaching, mentoring, and active feedback. He said, "I'm always trying to improve, and I was acutely aware of my lack of mentorship in my early days as a CEO. So I decided to make it part of how I lead and work with others, and that was the beginning of this journey." So without further ado, let me pass this off to Allan so that he can share with you some of the key insights he has learned on that mentorship journey. Thanks, Allan.
Thank you, Stacy. I don't know how I lived up to that, but thanks a lot. Appreciate the intro. 10 minutes goes by quickly, so I'll be moving rather fast through the talk, as the whole day will be. I'd like to start with two powerful examples of mentoring success, two women that grew into great leaders in our industry. And then I'd like to use those to illustrate the impact on mentees and the industry more broadly that can be had through effective mentoring. I'll move on to a few words on what makes mentoring relationships successful, and then I'd like to close with some takeaways for you to help guide you on your mentoring journey. So let's see whether I can get my slides to advance. There, great. The two mentoring examples that I'll talk to are Farrell Powell and Angela McFarlane. These were two women of exceptional talent. Both joined organizations of mine relatively early in their careers in junior positions. And using the skills, some of the skills that I've cited on this slide and their common drive to improve and succeed, they ended up growing into true leaders within our industry that are amazingly effective and admirable. And I just couldn't be more thrilled to have had the pleasure of working with them. Farrell joined DVI, my first company, as an engineer, and then grew through the engineering ranks. We hired her as a VP of R&D at a company Tom Fogarty and I founded, and then she became president and CEO of the first company we founded out of the Foundry. She had a great passion for leading, a good technique in complex technical leadership. She developed what we're now referring to as a very authentic leadership style, and she was continually driven to improve. Angela started as a lawyer and joined Onurex as technology counsel, but she had great strategic thought, business savvy that went far beyond her role as an intellectual property lawyer. She had an amazing organizational insight and the ability to be intuitive as to what makes an organization effective. Tireless thirst for excellence was just, how I look at Angela. And as a footnote, Angela gave a keynote talk at one of these speed mentoring sessions. It's a great talk. You ought to refer to it. It's on the website, on the DxD website. And again, as I mentioned, these two women, they not only were great in terms of being mentees of mine. I really enjoyed the whole experience. They became mentors and mentees to each other in the whole process. Tragically, Farrellyn lost her life in an accident after making eValve a huge success. But as a result, a number of us with exceptional leadership by Angela and a number of others created the Farrellyn Fund, which sprouted the Farrellyn Powell Leadership Initiative, which is a mentoring program for executives in the industry that focuses on women and diversity. This program is an example how mentoring is magnified often later in life. So not only can mentoring have a great impact on you and your career, but it can inspire even greater effect on the industry more broadly and on healthcare more generally. Few words on what makes mentoring work. You know, like I look at it much like any really effective personal relationship. It's got to start with trust and confidence. And then, you know, the mentee needs to have a genuine desire for the feedback, a desire to improve, and a willingness to take that feedback. Candor and openness are key. And I don't just mean candor by the mentor to the mentee and open-mindedness by the mentee, but I mean on both sides. The mentee needs to be honest and open and in speaking with the mentor, and the mentor had better be open-minded to different points of view and different ways of looking at a problem, because that's what's going to make the relationship work. And then I always think it's better if you can work on not just looking for answers, because if you just look to a mentor for answers, you're always going to need the mentor around. It's better to learn a way to think and develop that way of thinking so that you're the one coming up with the answers. And then over time, what happens is you're testing this out with the mentor and bouncing different approaches off. And it's a development of a relationship as much as it is the mentor starting out knowing everything you need to know. Moving on, I'll go on to a few key takeaways. I think often mentors can bring to you the recognition that you've got talents inside that you may not fully appreciate, or you may not fully believe that they're all that important in leadership. There are different leadership styles, and a mentor, having lived through the experience they've done, often recognize that that skill is going to be valuable for you in your leadership style. Secondly, a mentor is always going to be able to introduce you to various new career opportunities, which will help you develop and expand your network and grow as an individual. Along your career, I think it's important to take the opportunity to benefit from multiple sources of mentoring throughout the career. You know, in the two examples I gave, these were long-term mentoring relationships, and you may well develop great long-term mentors. On the other hand, at various points in your journey, you should take advantage of the fact that there may be different mentors at different levels that are more or less valuable to you. For instance, it may not be best to start out your journey going to a CEO to be a mentor. That may not be the best mentor early in your career. You may want to go to a manager or a director of R&D or a marketing person. So think about what your next few steps are in the career and look for mentors to help you down those steps. And in the process, you'll find you'll be able to develop long-term relationships with some of the folks that you really develop respect for and respect with. And then lastly, I guess a word, you know, I think a lot of folks are kind of shy and reticent to ask someone to be a mentor. And I would urge you not to be shy to do that. The mentors benefit from this experience too. With working with Angela and Farrellyn, you know, they faced experiences that really reinforced lessons that I'd learned early in my career, but frankly, you kind of, sometimes they drift into the back of your mind, and you always look at things differently through another person's eyes. They both had lived through experiences that I hadn't. That taught me things. It taught me not only things about how they would meet their challenges, but it taught me things that would help me be a better leader myself. Mentors, believe it or not, you know, I know they expand your network, but you will expand their network as well. Just as an example, I had never been exposed to the ophthalmology industry, but yet Angela got into that industry and ended up leading the Foresight Incubator that we co-founded. And that introduced me to an entire segment of the industry that I really had no exposure to. So it expanded my network. And then a couple of final things that I think, don't ever take for granted. And one is mentors get significant gratification out of seeing you be successful and seeing your organizations be successful. And most of us who've spent any time in the industry really have a passion for the industry more broadly. And the more successful you are and your organizations are, well, that does all of us good. And trust me, when you get old like me, I'm going to benefit from it more than you guys. But and then lastly, I think in both of these relationships, and often in a really good mentoring relationship, you gain a real trusted colleague, and it becomes a colleague instead of a mentor-mentee relationship. And often that develops into very close friendships, which it did in both of the situations I point out. So be respectful of a candidate mentor's time when you approach someone. But on the other hand, bear in mind that great mentoring relationships will be two-way streets. Thank you.